Would you support an amendment to the city code requiring that any future code or rule changes require the city to conduct an affordability impact assessment to determine the impact of the proposed regulations, how they would have an impact on the cost of living and doing business in Austin?
Well, the answer, as you just said, is yes. It was yes before, and it's still yes. I think any time that we consider any ordinance, we should consider all the factors that it has impact on. And certainly, since we're calling affordability, and I believe in it, a core city value, everything that we do in an ordinance we have to know how that is going to affect that value. So that's not to say that there won't be other things to consider as well. There certainly will, but I think the cost of it should certainly be a very important one.
While I think this approach has merit, I need more information as to how implementing the assessment would impact the time and cost of implementing regulations. So I didn't actually
So it wasn't
say
a hardcore no?
No,
Okay.
it wasn't a hard no. I think the approach has merit. And I do think that in general, we have to have a deeper understanding of how city actions affect cost. That is a central theme for me. I feel very strongly about affordability, and I've cited many policies where I don't think we've done an adequate assessment of how it affects the city budget. And one specific example I'll cite is the $4.3 million fee waiver for the Marriott Hotel. When you look at all the facts, they were coming anyway. And then the offer of a similar kind of a waiver for another hotel that had publicly said they would come without any subsidies. We don't have unlimited money. I think we have to use it very wisely.
I think affordability is an issue that council needs to take in consideration on each vote, but it's something that we need to require assessments for. Studies and assessments is the #1 way government grows. We've seen what's happened with the corporate subsidies and the bailouts for Formula One, for the waiving of development fees downtown, and for enterprise funds given to new businesses like Apple, wealthy corporations that relocate here. That's the real problem, where we need to hit on affordability and stop these items, these deals that go through that really make Austin a less affordable place to live. We cannot sacrifice our taxpayers for the benefit of a select few, and I will stand up to them as mayor of Austin.
Now we're going to move on to the two candidates in place two. Here's the question. Do you feel that improvements to trails and bike pedestrian facilities address vehicle traffic congestion in any way? If so, how?
Well, our traffic congestion issues are enormous, and honestly, I don't think that trails, pedestrian sidewalks really improve it dramatically. I think we've seen that with the issues that we have today. Affordability really drives a lot of our traffic issues, and I want to kind of clarify that. If you look at the affordability of downtown and central Austin, people will move out on the outskirts of Austin because of affordability issues, and that means that they are further away from their work and trying to get where they're going. So I think affordability is a huge issue, and it generates traffic problems, and so I think basically we don't have enough infrastructure for bikes right now to impact traffic. I think it could down the road.
You know, I think the impact on traffic congestion certainly is minimal, but I don't believe that we should throw those out as priorities, because we do know that they do have an impact on the folks that do use bikeways and trailways. Again, it's about a comprehensive multimodal transit system. We have to increase bus capacity, bus service. We need to increase rail service and rail capacity. But at the same time, we have to work on improving our highway system. That's the debate that's going on MOPAC right now with CTRMA's proposal. I believe those things could eliminate some of the congestion. But folks, the bottom line is Austin is a very attractive city. And if you increase I-35 to 10 lanes, you're just going to be sitting in 5 more lanes of congestion. So the reality is we have tough problems, and we need a comprehensive approach to dealing with it.
Turning now to place 5. As reported in recent media stories, the city is experiencing delays in processing land development applications and permits, even missing certain deadlines that are dictated by code. How would you address this? I guess maybe, how would you get things to move faster through the process in general? Is there a solution you would have?
I'm not sure that there's something that a city council person can do to make individual projects move faster.
As other problems, look like we have a supply and demand problem. The demand for these applications and the supply of the resources to process them is not being met. So it sounds to me like it's a managerial problem that needs to be looked at. Should you hire more personnel, expand the office due to the number of applications that are being processed? That means there's a lot of business going on. If there's a lot of business going on, we should look at a way to remedy the situation of the time limits involved. Maybe we should extend the time limits.
I've owned and operated several small businesses in Austin, founded several companies here. One of the companies I own is Local Loyalty Magazine. It highlights and supports locally owned businesses. And through that process, I've definitely heard the frustrations of small business owners and their processes within City Hall that have been less than productive to have them either open a second location or expand their existing location, which translates to jobs. For me, my background also in software, we have accountability tracing and reporting through software development. And I would look for the same type of reporting and accountability reports to come from city manager to city council so that we can have an active role in alleviating some of the roadblocks that some of our developers and small businesses are going through within City Hall. Clerical issues should not get in the way of growth.
I'm not a real estate developer, but I have participated in some real estate development projects, and I understand the problem. We had this problem in a big way, you may recall, in the late 1990s, but we were able to fix it. We staffed up, and we watched very carefully. We asked, the City Council got regular reports every month as to how well we were doing at meeting our deadlines for subdivision permits, site plans, and zoning changes. We actually met those deadlines for several years because we staffed up and because we were watching it carefully and because we were able to hold our department directors' feet to the fire to make sure that they got done. We have not been paying as close attention in the last few years, in part because y'all haven't had as much to do. I expect that over the next year or two, you're going to start coming up with a whole bunch more projects. This problem's going to get a whole lot worse, and we ought to start paying very close attention again. We did it before, we can do it again.
It's real simple. Government has an easy time holding the private sector accountable when they screw up. We ought to be able to hold the public sector accountable when they screw up. If we're not doing our job, we need to be held accountable. The city manager needs to fix the problem, and we need to comply with our own code requirements that we're imposing on the private sector as well.
I think one of the biggest successes that we've seen that I've seen has actually been on Campo, where the federal government has returned money and we actually got the pleasure of going back and reletting some projects throughout the region. One of the approaches that I think we're going to have to take to have more transportation fixes is, of course, a regional approach, and just to be honest with ourselves about state government and what they are and are not going to do, and be willing to take up a plan to deal with our challenges locally. The second success in dealing with our challenges, not only locally but on a regional basis, is I sit on the Lone Star Rail Committee, where we are dealing with that and receiving federal funds.
I'd say one of the successes that I have seen is a great program that I've used personally myself is the Car to Go. That allows people to live in a city and not have to own a car, pay for the note, but gives them the ability to get around. But if you want to talk about successes in mobility, you have to look at the infrastructure. I know that, you're developers, and here's the big issue that from people from South Austin, where I live, here's the big problem, is that we have apartment buildings going up, but the city doesn't do anything about the road infrastructure. So you have, the same roads, but just with 1,000 more cars on it. And another really easy way to help mobility, especially, is to improve the bus system. And that's just by putting maps at bus stops. That'd be very affordable and very effective because no one knows how to get around.